There's a mathematical kill switch buried in the global economy, and the countdown ends in 2026. Most people are watching the stock market or waiting for interest rates to fall. But the real threat is a $34 trillion government debt trap that may have already been set throughout history, from the fall of Rome to the 1923 Weimar Republic. There comes a point where a government's debt becomes too expensive to carry. Some believe we are approaching that moment now. While the headlines focus on today's crisis, a new generation of private digital money is quietly racing ahead. By the end of this video, I'll show you the evidence that many of the world's biggest central banks are preparing for major changes, and the little-known exit door that some believe is already being built. If you think your savings are completely safe just because they're sitting in a bank, you could be missing one of the biggest financial changes of the last 100 years. Let's uncover the history they rarely talk about. The trap was set in 1971, but according to this theory, the real countdown doesn't end until 2026. To understand why, we need to look at the one thing no politician wants to admit. The math no longer adds up. Right now, the global financial system is caught in what economists call a sovereign debt trap. That simply means governments have borrowed so much money, they're forced to borrow even more just to pay the interest. Think about that. It's like paying one credit card with another credit card forever. But here's the part most people overlook. History shows this cycle often ends the same way. The question isn't if pressure builds, it's how governments respond when it does. You might be wondering, if the system is this fragile, why hasn't it already collapsed? One answer is something called financial repression. Think of it as a hidden tax. Inflation slowly reduces the value of your savings, while helping governments manage huge debts. But there's an even bigger question. Why are some of the world's biggest financial institutions investing billions into digital assets, payment networks, and new financial technology, while telling everyone else to stay focused on traditional markets? The answer may lie deep inside the plumbing of the global financial system. And before this video ends, I'll show you the 1944 document that many believe changed everything. To understand why 2026 matters, we have to go back to 1944, behind closed doors, at the Bretton Woods conference. That's pronounced Bretton Woods. World leaders designed a new financial system. The US dollar became the world's financial anchor. But some economists argue the system contained a weakness from the very beginning. It depended on one country, carrying more and more debt, while the rest of the world kept trusting it. Today, that trust is being tested. Throughout history, heavily indebted empires usually faced two choices: default on their debts or print more money. But today, some believe there's a third option, a quieter transition, one happening behind the scenes. While everyone watches interest rates, another race is taking place. It's happening inside digital finance. Some call them compute-backed assets. Others simply see them as a new generation of private digital money. Instead of depending only on governments, they're increasingly connected to computing power, electricity, and artificial intelligence, or simply artificial intelligence. This connects directly to the energy standard we've discussed before, but here's the mystery. Why are some of the world's biggest investment firms buying data centers, fiber networks, and digital infrastructure? Instead of loading up on government bonds, some believe they're preparing for the next financial system, not waiting for it, building it. And in just a few minutes, I'll show you why many people point back to 1944 as the beginning of this entire story. The exit door isn't just an idea. It's becoming physical infrastructure. While most people argue about crypto prices, large financial institutions are exploring tokenized real-world assets, or simply tokenized assets. Instead of moving wealth through paper systems, assets can be represented digitally on secure digital networks. Supporters believe this creates faster, cheaper, and more efficient financial markets. At the same time, governments around the world must refinance enormous amounts of debt at much higher interest rates. That's what many analysts call the refinancing wall. If borrowing stays expensive, the pressure keeps growing. So what does that mean for ordinary people? The goal isn't chasing the next get-rich-quick coin. It's understanding what gives value to the financial system. Energy, data centers, critical resources, digital infrastructure, these are becoming increasingly important. The real shift may not be about money. It may be about collateral. History doesn't repeat perfectly, but it often rhymes. The only question is, will you recognize the pattern before everyone else does? The 2026 deadline may or may not become the turning point some people expect, but the debt cycle, the technology, and the infrastructure changes are already happening. Understanding the trap is only half the story. To understand the possible exit door, you also need to understand the fuel powering this new system. In my last deep dive, I explained the energy standard and why electricity, computing power, and AI are becoming some of the world's most valuable resources. If you want to see how those ideas connect to everything we've covered today, watch that video next. The financial system is changing. The headlines change every day, but history leaves clues. If you know where to look, I'll see you in the next chapter of Financial History Uncovered.